everybody.
Hey, everybody. So welcome to the first episode of Anti-Natal News. So brand new Annie podcast or Anti-Natalism International podcast. Very quickly, before we kick anything off, I wanted to say thanks to AK Hunter, whose music you just heard and you'll hear again at the end of the episode. So yeah, I will quickly introduce you to myself and then hand over to Amanda, and then we'll talk a bit more about what the podcast actually is. So I am your first regular host, Lawrence. I'm one of the co-founders of Anti-Natalism International. I'm from London. I don't know what else is at all interesting about me, but no, nothing's interesting about me. You go, Amanda.
Okay, Lawrence. Hey, everybody. I'm Amanda. Welcome to Anti-Natal News. I am also one of the co-founders of Anti-Natalism International. I am so excited to be recording the first episode of Anti-Natal News today with Lawrence. Anti-Natal News is actually an older project of mine. I used to do this on my channel, my YouTube channel, Forever Will Films, back in the old days, and it just got to be too much work, so I kind of abandoned the project. But through Anti-Natalism International, it has found a new place, a new home, a new energy. And yeah, we've got a lot of very interesting anti-natalist news stories to tell you about today. I wanted to let everybody know that you can follow along with all of the news stories that we present within this podcast today and more on the Anti-Natalism International website. If you go to the initiatives section, you will find the logo for Anti-Natal News. Click on that and you can find links to everything that we spoke about within this episode and more.
Yeah, so basically how it's going to work is we're going to release this podcast once a month at the I guess the beginning of every month, but we'll be talking about the news from the previous month. So in this episode, you know, it's released at the start of February, but we're going to be talking about all sorts of stuff that have been going on in January. How this may change like as we go on, but the basic structure that we're going to have is we'll cover the stuff that's been specifically happening within the community and like directly about antinatalism, and then we'll have a second section which is more about like, you know, more news stories that have been happening sort of outside the community but are still relevant to the topic.
So yes, so you know, in the interest of editing this in time for like a February 1st release or early February, you know, there are definitely January news stories that we will have missed. You know, we're not trying to slight anyone if your anti-natal news is not presented within this episode. It's just sort of an unfortunate thing that happens, that we can't get to everything that happened in the month within this episode. We have to edit it and release it. So if we have missed your anti-natal news and you'd like to submit some, please make sure to email us anytime. That email again is antinatalnews@gmail.com. Let us know the stories that we missed. We'll cover them at the beginning of next episode. And also, if you have upcoming antinatal news, say something going on, you know, that's to go on in February, let us know, and we'll cover it in the episode. We reserve the right to not cover a story for any reason if we deem it whatever, but we will cover most things, I do believe.
Yeah, so we don't want any crying if your story doesn't get covered, please.
Right. No tears.
But anyway, so the reason I was initially saying that is because we're going to have a bit more of a fun bit we'll do near the end where, you know, if anyone's done a particular dum-dum that month, we'll, you know, whether they be anti-natalist or not, but something relevant to the topic. And we've got one lined up for this month.
Yes, we do.
But we'll be covering that in that last episode as well, and just having like a bit of fun. You know, it sounds a bit harsh to say at someone else's expense, but often it probably will be.
It might be, yes. So don't be the dum-dum. Okay, so just wanted to give a brief little disclaimer before we begin. There is a bit of an inherent issue in doing this project in that a lot of time every month goes into collecting all the news stories, to organizing all the news stories, to putting them in some sort of logical, consumable fashion to be presented on the show. That does not, however, mean that I've necessarily, or Lawrence, have had the appropriate time to adequately consume every news story, to watch every video, to read every article, to, fully read all the new books and everything. That sort of proves impossible every month. So please, we are factually presenting what has happened during the month. We are not necessarily endorsing all of the individuals involved or all of the opinions spoken in any of these works. So just keep that in mind.
Cool. Right, shall we kick things off with the antenatal news?
Let's do it. All right, so I think now we're ready to start talking about some of the new articles that have come out around the subject of antinatalism in the month of January 2021. The first that we'd like to speak about was released by Junkie.com. Is it morally wrong to have children? The bleakest philosophy in the world sure thinks so. So this was a very interesting article, actually. I appreciated the fact that it not only covered human procreation, but did in fact touch upon all of sentience, the animals. That was a bit refreshing. It was nice to see Karima Kerma specifically get a mention, not only his work on this subject, but also his music. That was a nice thing to see. So, it's quite often the case that articles about antinatalism are terrible and very dismissive. And this was pretty fair, actually. It was better than most you'd find, I'd say. What do you think, Lawrence?
Yeah, it's a bit of like a tongue-in-cheek article. It was an article that didn't take itself too seriously, although it was talking about a serious topic. But I thought it's a good article for, someone who hasn't really engaged with the philosophy before and is just hearing about it. If you're someone who's read books about this, it's not going to be the most enlightening thing, but I thought it was quite nice. It goes over Benatar's asymmetry. It talks about the consent argument as well, and it dispels a few myths about antinatalists being depressed people, or and it makes the distinction between starting a life and ending one. Mm-hmm. So I think like generally, it was quite good, but for sort of like an entry level person.
Yeah, I thought it was a very, very good introductory article, and it just did a better job than most. So I was fairly pleased. So definitely go check it out, I would say. Okay, so I think that's it for articles. Let's talk about two new anti-natalist books that were released January 2021. The first is by Raphael Samuel. Sadly, I have not had a chance to read this book. It's called How to End All Human Suffering. He's quite proud of it. He is, from what I understand, looking for people to read it and give their feedback of it. So if you happen to have a chance to check it out, let him know what you think. A link to, I'm sure we'll put at least a lot of these links in the description of the video itself. But once again, you can find a link to this on the Anti-Natalism International website under the initiatives section, where you can find anti-natal news. So please go check out Raphael's new book, and congratulations, by the way, Raphael. Wanted to also let everybody know that Théophile de Guerreau, whose name, my dear Theo, I pronounce it wrong every time, and I do apologize for that. But Theo is, of course, one of the original coiners of the term anti-natalism. His seminal work, The Art of Guillotining Procreators, definitely one of the most important and original books on the subject of antinatalism out there. He was, of course, a part of the Anti-Natalism International launch event. Definitely go check out that video to see his submission to the launch event. He has actually released a new book about antinatalism. Now, I will absolutely butcher the name of this work, unfortunately, because it's entirely in French. I don't want to. I mean, I can attempt it, but it will not be good. So you can definitely find a link to this and also the full title in French, once again, on the website, but also in the description of this video. I won't attempt to say it. But this is really an important book that he's spent a lot of time working on, for a long time, sort of about anti-natalism in early Christianity. He did have an article about this in Christine Lochmoniva's recent History of Anti-Natalism book, which you can find on Amazon. We'll link to that below as well. I have ordered a copy. It has not arrived yet. I'm very, very excited to add Theo's new book to my burgeoning collection of anti-natalist books that I have. And hopefully once I actually have it, I'll make a video showing it off. But wanted to say a huge congratulations to Theo for the publication of your second book on the subject of anti-natalism. It is a very fascinating, history of anti-natalistic thought within the whole subject of anti-natalistic thought within religions is, an important and fascinating subject, and specifically, really a large amount of anti-natalist thinking in early Christianity did exist. And so it's wonderful to see some scholarship around that. And please go support Theo, go buy the book. And congratulations once again. Okay, and now some anti-natalist podcast news. So, the Exploring Anti-Natalism podcast had 2 new episodes in the month of January. Mark J. Maharaj and I interviewed Chris Korda of the Church of Euthanasia. It was a very interesting interview, very controversial episode, actually. I won't say any more about that. Please go check it out. And then our very own Lawrence Anton, one of the co-host of this very show, did an episode on the Exploring Anti-Natalism podcast. I thought it was excellent. Thank you again, Lawrence, for being on the show.
No. Thank you. If anyone does feel like getting bored for another hour, then head over there.
Yeah, it's not a boring episode at all. It's a great episode. And look forward, in the coming months to an interview with each of the founders of Anti-Natalism International, by the way. The next one will be Pratima. Pratima will be interviewed on February 1st, and that episode will be out February 15th. So I'm excited for that. Today, the date of the release of this episode of the Anti-Natalist News podcast, I will also be releasing episode 27 of the Exploring Anti-Natalism podcast, which will be an interview with Masahiro Morioka, who will be a Japanese. He's not an anti-natalist, but he's a Japanese philosopher who is very fascinated by the subject of anti-natalism. And recently wrote a book about the subject. We'll be talking more about him shortly on this podcast. But anyway, make sure to go also check that out. Okay, now some anti-natalist music news. So I'm happy to announce there was some news in the anti-natalist music world. A new YouTuber by the name of Cosmic Prison put up a couple of new anti-natalism related songs. I really enjoyed them. Please go check that out. Links below and on the website. New Cosmic Slam material was released this month. Really good, getting better and better and better with every release. Really happy to see that. The Black Numerian, again, just really, really great stuff. I think there's at least 2 or 3 anti-natalism related tracks now. I'm not exactly sure how to describe the style of music, but really, really enjoyed it. Looks like a great channel. Most of these are new channels, which is also very exciting. Lots of new anti-natalist YouTubers this month, which we'll talk more about in a little while. I want to also let everybody know that there is new releases from Extinctionist Records. So Extinctionist is a black metal musician who's been very active in the anti-natalist community for a long time now. And it's really, I plan on making more videos about his stuff, but really has kind of created like a cottage industry around the production of anti-natalist black metal, and sells the tapes through I think it's called Discogs. I always screw up the name of how to say that website. But it's just kind of fascinating, and I've really enjoyed sort of following the development of it, and it's just great stuff all around. It's the tapes are cool, the music is cool, the website is really cool. The way he advertises the new releases are cool. They're all very limited print amount. Sometimes there's only 10 copies of each album that's out there. So make sure to go check out his Discogs, his YouTube channel, and snap up the new releases while you can, because once they're gone, they're totally gone. And that does it for Anti-Natalist Music News. Okay, now let's talk about anti-natalist video news. So there is a ton of anti-natalism related video news. The first thing I'd like to speak about is all of the amazing work that people have been doing this last month, translating older video work into different languages. So I don't know how to say the full name of the channel because it's in Arabic, but it is connected to one of the largest Arabic anti-natalist Facebook groups. You'll find the links to all of this below and on the website, as we've been saying. But this person has done an amazing amount of work putting Arabic subtitles on lots of older anti-natalist videos, lots of old In Mendem, some stuff from Theo, all kinds of stuff. So definitely go check that out. Another channel by the name of Anti-Natalismo has also been doing some great translation work into Spanish or Portuguese. I'm actually not sure whether it's Spanish or Portuguese, but taking older videos, putting Spanish or Portuguese subtitles on it. Love seeing that. Ephilism Rus has been not only subtitling, but also dubbing older anti-natalist videos. He actually dubbed The Epilist, my movie. So hugely appreciate that. It's great work. Again, don't know entirely how to say the name of this channel. It's just the word anti-natalism in Russian, and I dare not try to pronounce it in the Russian way of speaking. But again, it has been doing some Russian dubbing, so that's been awesome to check out. Somebody also by the name of Mari Clement did a great Spanish subtitling of the Miguel Steiner episode of the Exploring Antinatalism podcast. So thank you so much for that. Our very own Jin also did a Chinese translation and subtitling of the David Benatar clip from the Antinatalism International launch event. You can check out that video on the this very channel, actually, the Antinatalism International YouTube channel. So thank you so much to Jin for doing that. I want to basically say, Anti-Natalism International is always looking for translators. There's so much stuff in the anti-natal world that needs to be translated, that needs to be shared across cultures, across continents. So if that's something that you're interested in doing, please contact us at info@antinatalisminternational.com. Okay, so that kind of does it for translation news. Thank you so much to everybody that has taken the time to do all those translations. Love seeing that. Want to briefly say that there's been a ton of new anti-natalist YouTube channels this month, which is such great news. It's the first time in a long time that I've seen so many new anti-natalist channels pop up. And so I'd just like to briefly say the names of all of these new channels as a means of welcoming all of ththese new anti-natalist YouTubers: Cosmic Prison, Metaphysical Exile, Anti-Natalist MD, Sophie Fila, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, High Point 1095 Carbide, Morality Without Addiction, Feel Wisdom, Kataro, and that channel is in Spanish or Portuguese. I'm not entirely sure if it's a new anti-natalist channel, but seems to like AN, so a bit of a question on that one. Rita McLeod, Existential Rose Petal, Sean McGilly, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. The Black Numerian, again, who we talked about a little bit ago, does some music. Gadget Guy 28, Thoughtful Steve, and Night Shadow. So once again, welcome to YouTube, everybody. I hope that perhaps you'll keep the my contest, which I hold every summer, in mind when it comes time. The Why Are You an Anti-Natalist contest. It always welcomes submissions by new anti-natalist channels, which all of you are. So hope to see some submissions from you to the contest this summer, and hope to see more videos on all of your channels. Okay, in addition to new anti-natalist YouTube channels, a lot of established anti-natalist YouTube channels, older YouTubers that make anti-natalist videos, also made a ton of videos this month. It was also really wonderful to see some actual back and forth, actual, old-timey YouTube response videos between anti-natalists this month. So, we're not going to get into sort of the specifics, but the Friendly Anti-Natalist made a video, which was very interesting. There was some response from Seven of Swords, so go check out their videos. And there was also some pushback this month. A number of different people made anti-natalism or anti-natalist videos, and there was some back and forth there. Apparently, the vegan teacher made a video about anti-natalism. I haven't been able to find that video, but somebody by the name of XZodiac85X made several videos about that. There's been some response back and forth between him and No Brains in Head, Joy, who's a moderator on the Anti-Natalism International Discord. So always wonderful to see response videos. That was a big part of anti-natalist YouTube culture back in the old days. And it's sort of fizzled out over the last, 5, 6, 7 years or so. So nice to see a bit of a return to that. Wanted to also say Anti-Natalist Outreach. My dear friend Anti-Natalist Outreach made a ton of new videos this month, but his YouTube channel was sort of suspended. He also made his Instagram was suspended, at least for some period of time. I think it's back now. He also made a new TikTok account that was suspended. So he's really had a rough month, and I really feel for him. So he has a new channel now. The old channel was not taken down. It's still up. Make sure you go subscribe to that as well if you're not already. But link below to the new channel. Please go support him. I'm glad he's hanging in there. He's of course been very busy. I mean, he has a lot of really big projects sort of that have been in play, and another big one that's sort of looming in the future that's very exciting. He is, of course, along with Danny Shine, the founder of the Fellowship of Anti-Natalist Artists, which is sort of a way to get people to make anti-natalist art. Every month they have a prompt, sort of like a word or a phrase that's meant to inspire people to create pieces of anti-natalist art. So every week he releases a new one. Links below to where you can find, some of the older prompts, and please feel free to jump in and contribute if that's something that you wish to do. But in addition to that, he's also started a new project called the Conference of Anti-Natalist Parents. I think that this is an enormously important initiative, and I'm so happy to see him try to make this happen. Basically, what he wants to do is, give anti-natalist parents, the people that have produced biological children but later become anti-natalist after the fact, a platform, a means of speaking their story and their, and it's a very important voice in the anti-natalist world that is sometimes quite suppressed, not given a lot of space to really speak. A lot of people are sort of afraid to voice those sort of feelings or those sort of facts about their lives. But it's very important to hear from parents, because there are a lot of parents out there, I believe, who do feel this way. And there's nothing within our cultures that allows them to also be anti-natalist or to sort of be honest about what's really, what their real opinion of these choices that they've made are. So I think that's going to be an extremely important thing moving forward. And so more news about that on the way, but that's all I really have about it so far. He did make a video, calling on antinatalist parents to contact him. So if you are an antinatalist parent of some description, please get in touch with him. Okay, so now for some Reddit news. So there's a lot of fairly recent, Reddit, subreddit groups that have popped up around the subject of antinatalism. The biggest antinatalist subreddit is, of course, r/Anti-natalism. I am a moderator there. The moderators of the subreddit work extremely hard, and their hard work has paid off because we are very close now to 100,000 users, which is incredible news. And to celebrate this momentous occasion, the admins and moderators of r/AN have actually created a sister subreddit. It is, of course, called Ask an Anti-Natalist, and it's meant to sort of be a more structured, debate-style subreddit, because the larger subreddit is sort of about anything related to antinatalism. It's a good place to post links of things that are going on. It's a good place to have sort of more loose conversation, to post memes, all kinds of, all the other stuff. But it's not necessarily the best place to have debates, to have, moderated conversations. So that's the hope of this new one. So I very much encourage people to go check it out. And just a huge congratulations to my fellow admins and moderators that have worked so hard putting this together. So anyway, go check that out. It's really, really cool. And congratulations again to them for putting this together. Okay, so it deserves to be said that there is antinatalist happenings happening all over the world. New videos, new articles, new all kinds of stuff happening in languages other than English. The two biggest places in the world other than in the English-speaking part of the world where there's been a lot of antinatalism news over January is in both Poland and in Japan. So let's speak a little bit about Polish antinatalism news first. Now, Lawrence, you know how to pronounce this gentleman's name better than I do. So could you perhaps give a crack at it? Yeah.
This is my attempt. Mikolai Stasinski.
And that is a far better attempt than I have. This is a lovely human being, this person. I've been in contact with him for quite some time. He actually did a written interview on the Exploring Anti-Natalism podcast. I've made videos about his work in the past. He actually was also in the Anti-Natalism International launch event. He provided a clip saying the word antinatalism in Polish. He's written a new book called Anti-natalism. I think that's how you pronounce it in Polish, sorry. And the book itself came out a little while ago. I think it was released officially before December. For those of you that remember, the crowdfunding event that went along with this book was enormously successful, wildly successful. And they were offering all kinds of new of prizes if you donated to the book. So from what I understand, the book has now started to ship. People's like extra prizes like t-shirts and stuff, those have also started to ship. I have not received my copy yet, but I'm very much looking forward to it, and I will be making a video once it arrives showing off. But the great news is that he's starting to get a lot more media attention for the book. And it does really seem like, Polish anti-natalism, antinatalist activists in Poland have kind of been cooking and simmering for a while now, but I think with this new book and with the attention it's getting, antinatalism in Poland, Polish antinatalism does seem like it's emerging, and Poland is becoming, one of the, one of, perhaps on a smaller scale than in other places like India, but it's sort of becoming its own little epicenter of antinatalist thought. So that's very, very exciting to see. So a number of different articles related to the new book have been released this month. I don't have any a lot of details about them individually, but go check them out. There's also a number of podcasts that dealt with the subject of anti-natalism in Poland released this month. Couple of other things that came from Poland that mentioned anti-natalism released in January 2021. I don't have a lot of details about them, but you can find all the links below and on the website. If you have details that I don't have myself, I would love to hear more about them. So please, make sure to type in the comments if you have more news or more details, or get in touch with us. Let's go over to Japan now. So the development of anti-natalism in Japan is fascinating. It's something that I'm really, really excited to say, slowly more and more stuff is coming out of Japan related to anti-natalism. So as I mentioned earlier, Masahiro Morioka is a fascinating philosopher. He works at Yasada University in Japan. Is somebody that's, again, not an anti-natalist, but really exceptionally fascinated by the subject. He wrote a book about anti-natalism called Is It Better Never to Have Been Born? He's been getting a lot more attention for this book. This book is really getting a lot of very nice attention, from in Japan. People really seem to be responding to it for the most part very, very well. So he did a number of interviews this month. We'll link it below. It's also a very controversial book amongst actual Japanese anti-natalists because I hope we'll hear in the interview that I did with Masahiro on the Exploring Anti-Natalism podcast, like he likes to take the subject from more of a personal place and perhaps less of a, less sort of like he certainly comes at it from a hardcore philosophy perspective, but the fact that he's not an anti-natalist and speaking for anti-natalism from more of a personal perspective, putting the emphasis on whether it's better for him to have been born, in a sense, as opposed to is it better to create new people, less a comment about procreation itself than about the individual. That's been very controversial amongst Japanese anti-natalists who I think I think the sense I'm getting is that they would prefer that, a more sort of hard line actual anti-natalist get that attention that Masahiro is getting. But I would say that Masahiro, I think, is he's kind of setting it up, for
he's sort of like laying the foundations for more of a conversation.
Yeah, exactly. I think he's making it more possible, I think, for anti-natalists of a more like a more stronger actual anti-natalist perspective to have more of a place in Japanese discourse.
Yeah, he's like shifting the Overton window on the topic.
Right, exactly. So I think he's doing great work. I really, really loved speaking with Masahiro on the podcast. He's a great guy, fascinating individual. He's written something like 20 books. He's just very well accomplished. Definitely go check out his YouTube channel that deals entirely with the subject of anti-natalism. It's called Tokyo Philosophy Project. And definitely go check out the interviews that he did. There was definitely some new videos by anti-natalist YouTubers this last month. Links below to all of them. I'm not entirely sure how to say the titles of these YouTube channels, so I will just link to them and not try to, and not butcher their names. There's lots of videos that come out of Japan that seem to deal with the subject of anti-natalism in some way, shape, or form, but it's impossible for me to really know if they're anti-natalists, if they're just commenting on the subject. So again, this is another opportunity where, in the comments, through email, let us know some of the details about some of these videos if you happen to check them out. I would love to know more about them. So definitely go check out the links. And I guess right before we started recording this episode, Lawrence, we had some interesting news from Japan, correct?
Yeah, so there was some news that came out of Japan just before we started recording. So a new group or organization, I'm not exactly sure what it is yet, has just been launched in Japan. They officially launched by sending out a tweet, but the tweet is in Japanese, so I don't exactly know what it says. But the name of the group is the Association of Anti-Natalism for Sentient Beings.
Mm.
So I'm sure we'll probably have more updates about that next month. But for now, that's all we've got.
Yeah, I have just a little bit to add to that. So the news came from Asaji Hozumi. I'm so sorry, Asaji, if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. I mean, he's a contributor to the Anti-Natalism International Discord, and apparently it's a collaboration between himself, other people, and Yuichi Furuno. Again, so sorry if I'm pronouncing his name wrong, but I actually indirectly know that person. That person was a YouTuber in the old days, and I actually made a video, I think in 2016 or so, about this person's channel. He had like hundreds of videos on the subject of antinatalism, although I don't think he was using the word antinatalism at the time. I seem to remember he was using a word that I think more translated to something closer to anti-birthright or something like that. It was very interesting. But anyway, that person's videos completely went away a long time ago. So it's lovely to see this person, take on a new form and get involved with new antinatalist projects. And this sounds amazing. So I'm very excited to see where they go with this.
Oh.
So those are all sort of the big stories for January 2021. However, a lot more happened this last month. So make sure to go check out the website once again for links to everything. Not everything, unfortunately, can be covered within the episode itself, but that doesn't mean that we don't take great care to do our best to collect everything that happens. And at the very least, we can make it available on the website.
All right, okay, so now we're going to do what's been going on in sort of like the wider world, stories that aren't specifically about antinatalism, but it's sort of still relevant, and these have been sort of like, headlines and stuff like that. I will probably be doing more of the speaking now. Up until now, people probably thought, Amanda was making a podcast and she just had to bring her kid brother along or something. But don't worry, I will be talking as well. So the first one that we were going to cover is an article by the New York Times. And the actual headline was, "The Sperm Kings Have a Problem, Too Much Demand." And basically, what this article goes over is the impact that the coronavirus has had on, I guess, what you can call the sort of US sperm donor world or market, or however you want to put it. So in the article, they explain that the sperm donor industry, I guess you could call it, in 2018 was worth $4 billion. The usual customers apparently are about 20% heterosexual couples, 60% lesbian couples, and then 20% just single women. But what has happened is since the pandemic, a lot of the donors haven't wanted to go in or can't go in to, make donations. So what that's meant is that they've had a lack of supply, but the demand hasn't gone away. And actually, apparently, in some areas, demand has actually significantly increased as well. And this is not just the case for the US. Apparently, this is also the case for the UK, Canada, Australia. I'm not sure about anywhere else in the world, but the article just sort of mentioned those countries as well. Apparently, there's one large sperm bank in Seattle that has seen a 20% increase in purchases compared to last year. Now, in the article, there's this lady who runs a sperm bank, and she was suggesting that the increase is likely due to the fact that more people are working at home, and so they have this feeling that their life is more flexible at the moment, and that also it would be easier to raise kids when you're working at home rather than you spending all the time out the house, at your work. And the other thing is that she also thinks that given the situation at the moment around the world, people need hope, and so they're choosing to have kids because of that. I mean, if that isn't the most selfish thing I've ever heard, then I don't know what fucking
seriously.
is. Yeah, literally. But anyway, so those were the reasons that she speculated as to why there had been this increase. Now, obviously, the banks have tried to adapt to get donations back to the normal level. So people have to wear masks. There's been people temperatures being checked. Apparently they did note in the article that you can take your mask off while you're making the donation though. Yeah, and apparently some banks have been getting so desperate as well that a representative from one bank actually was trying to recruit new donors on a hiking trail. I'm not sure how successful they were.
That's weird.
Yeah. That's super weird, isn't it? Imagine if you're you're just going for a hike, and someone's trying to, not con you, but trying to get your semen out of you, basically.
I mean, that'd get you punched in the face in something. I mean, I guess they could go door to door, just give you a little cup.
That'd be the weirdest door-to-door call ever.
Just stand outside the door until you're done, and that's really, really.
So what's been happening is because a lot of these banks haven't been able to supply the demand, is a lot of people who are looking for sperm donors have actually been cutting out the middleman and trying to go straight to the source. So apparently there's been an increase in people meeting up with sperm donors in hotel rooms, and apparently, and this is where the sperm kings come in. So apparently there's been a rise in the use of sperm kings, and basically what sperm kings are is they're basically individual people who act as basically freelance sperm donors. So they just what they'll do is they'll donate to basically anyone for as many times as they like, often for free as well. They just want their travel covered. There are a lot of Facebook groups, apps as well for your phone, and online directories where you can find these so-called sperm kings, and often they will put up their details, photos of themselves. People can go and select which one they want and then try and get a donation from them. The whole thing sounds super weird and fucked up to me, but apparently that is going on. So now we head back to Japan, and there was an article out this month in Quartz, which I think is some sort of online magazine. And basically they are looking into the Japanese government's efforts to incentivize having kids, basically. So as I'm sure many people know, Japan is one country among a few others that have an aging population. And the Japanese National Institute of Population and Social Security Research say that the population at the moment is about 127 million. It could fall 100 million by 2049 and even 82 million by 2065. And it seems like the concerns over this are mostly to do with economic concerns, i.e. there won't be enough people to help fuel the economy. This is coming, mostly, it's coming both from the fact that younger people are not having as many kids, but also that a lot of the population is old and will soon die. Japan has implemented schemes in the past to try and raise fertility rates, such as investment in childcare and things like that. But more recently, in 2017, a city called, and I'm going to butcher this, but Nakigo, has actually been offering new mothers a gift of 300,000 yen, which is about $2,785, as well as subsidized, care, housing, health, and education. So they're really putting a lot of money into trying to encourage people to have kids. There have, however, been some issues with the policy. There's been some cultural friction with the policy's implementation. And there's also been logistical issues as well, i.e. if you're encouraging people to have kids and giving them childcare, you need carers to care for those children. And so Japan, the Japanese government is going to need to train more carers in, things like nurseries and schools and stuff like this. So, what do you think, Amanda?
Young Japanese people don't seem particularly interested in sex. And I just don't think that that's going to change by giving them financial incentives or something like that. That's a shift that's not going to be easily corrected. I mean, I obviously I don't think it is something to be corrected, but in their minds it is. But where does it go from there? Where does a failure to entice the young to procreate go? And how desperate will governments become to acquire a certain type of person, a certain nationality? I don't know. It's a little scary to think about, especially considering we are slowly moving away from procreation defined by copulation between man and woman. And so is it going to make governments even more interested in how you produce people by other means? Yeah, that doesn't bode well for anybody, really, especially not for anti-natalism. It opens up a whole other huge can of worms as to how to combat that. But yeah, I'm not sure what else to say at this point.
Yeah, no, I think this is going to be something that we're going to see more of in the coming decades, especially in countries with aging populations. Western countries, Japan as well, are the key ones. I don't know if I'm leaving any out, but I think this is where like anti-procreative activism is just going to have to be in it for the long haul, and is going to have to try and change culture. And maybe that's not going to happen, but I feel like policies like these are going to just keep happening if natalism is still in the culture. And so no matter how much work we try and do to reduce births, if you don't change the culture and how people view it,
right,
as soon as the birth rate goes down, there's just going to be incentives to bring it back up again.
Right.
Okay, so this is the last article that we're going to go over today, which is sort of been happening in the wider world, and this is one that was actually published in Forbes, which I actually don't know too much about Forbes, but apparently it's famous. And I believe Forbes is a US publication. Do you know, Amanda?
I believe it is, yes.
Yeah. So the article centers around the US anyway. And essentially what it's going over is it's so the author, I'm going to say her name wrong, Sean Belock. So she's a researcher, and essentially what she was trying to address is, I guess this is somewhat good news for us, is around the start of the lockdowns that went on around a lot of countries around the world, there was a lot of sort of people who were saying, in next year, COVID baby boom, because everyone's been shacked up together, everyone's bored, so what else are they going to be doing anyway? So that was sort of doing the circuits around the start of the lockdowns, and she really wrote this article to try and put another perspective forward. Now, at the end of the day, personally, I have no idea if she's going to be right. She's making the case that there isn't going to be a baby boom. Maybe there isn't, maybe there is. I'm not educated enough on the subject to make an informed statement on that. But essentially what she argues in the article is that there have actually been predictions made by a couple of institutes to the contrary of what people have been saying. So the Brookings Institute has said that next year in the US, there could be up to actually 500,000 less births than there were in 2020. So 500,000 less in the year we're in now. I'm going to say this wrong. The Guttmacher Institute says as well that that this is probably because many women don't actually want to have the burden of raising a child during these sort of, COVID stained times, and so delay having a kid.
No, so I think it's good news that people are being reasonable enough to wait at the very least to not have a child during a fucking pandemic.
Yeah.
I was very concerned, honestly, right when the pandemic started. I was like, this is going to lead to a huge baby boom.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, because, people are isolated. I figured they're going to all become alcoholics and they're all going to get pregnant. Like, what else is there to do, right? So that's good news, I think. At the same time, when things get better and people aren't so ruled by their sense of temporary pessimism, then I think it's very likely, honestly, that you could see a baby boom once this is all over.
Yeah.
And I could be wrong about that, and I hope that I am.
Well, maybe, this is a completely uninformed opinion that I'm about to put forward. So if anyone is listening to this podcast thinking that there was going to be informed commentary, then move along. You're getting commentary, but it's by no means
shit out of luck. Yeah.
My guess is maybe it won't be a boom straight after lockdown and stuff like this year, but maybe it'll be sort of delayed by a year or so, because we'll get back to normalcy and then people will, start kicking in baby mode.
That's very possible too. I think at least for America, the added financial strain, which was outrageous, honestly, I think increased the at least temporary anti-procreative stance of a lot of these people, because a lot of people lost their jobs last March, have not gotten anything since that point. So basically not having any financial support, I'm sure that had a big piece of influencing that decision. But once that starts improving, they're not making the decision not to have a child out of some sort of informed philosophical stance. And so I do think this is only temporary.
To be honest, I don't think the average person makes many decisions using an informed philosophical stance, given what most people do.
I don't think so either. No, I agree with that completely. I agree with that completely.
But yeah, so in the article, Sian makes the point, if that is how you say her name, she makes the point that it's less knowing that bad things are happening that stress people out, although that does stress them out. But she was saying the research shows that it's uncertainty stressful, and given that the future is so uncertain now, especially with what you said about people losing jobs and stuff like that, so there's financial uncertainty for people as well as countries, that may be contributing to it as well. But obviously there's the uncertainty of just like, you don't know what the future is going to look like in terms of engaging with other people and isolation and stuff like that. So that could be a big player, because I mean, I guess it makes sense. Why would we want to have a child in uncertain times? Just evolutionarily speaking, you would probably want to wait for more stable conditions. But I don't know, maybe I'm chatting a load of shit. Okay, so now we've come to the section that we mentioned before, where, if anyone does a particular dum-dum or does something silly in the past month, we just have a bit of a chuckle. And this month, there has been a, shall we say, a particular shining star, and that was Revenge Star. She's a YouTuber, and I think what happened is she is child free and has presumably talked about this in the past, and people were saying, oh, so you're an anti-natalist, and she was flipping her shit.
She was most displeased.
Exactly, because she just does not want to be called an anti-natalist, and actually, I don't. She obviously isn't. Like when I watched the video, her views are clearly not.
No, but she clearly also doesn't really know what an anti-natalist is. I mean, that was the thing about that video, was that it just clearly, she has all of these preconceived notions of the kind of person that an anti-natalist is. Like, we're all ugly, and there's all kinds of psychological reasons. She's basically saying that somebody might be an anti-natalist, which are not based on fact at all. So it was, she didn't come off in the best light. Basically, her ignorance on the subject showed pretty heavily.
And I've never observed anyone talk about anti-natalism in so few clothes as well before.
Yeah, that was interesting. I'm not sure what kind of compensation joke to make. In regards to that.
If anyone does want to check it out, obviously, we're not sending people over there to, harass her.
No, please don't send any hate to this person. Yeah.
But if anyone wants to go and check her video out and just, for a bit of amusement, it's called I Am Child Free, Not Anti-Natalist, and it's Revenge Star is the channel. Don't leave any negative comments or anything like that. It's just a spectacle. It's a spectacle that I think everyone should go and observe.
Should spectate.
Exactly. Cool. So we've basically reached the end of the podcast. I want to thank everyone for listening to the first one. One big thing I do want to say is the lack of professionalism for this first one. It's not always going to be like this. Hopefully, this is like a new project for us. So over the months, hopefully we'll get better. We'll get more streamlined at, being able to pick out the best stories and talking about them and things like this. But, everything's got to start somewhere. So this is where we start. The social media links for, Annie and the podcast will be in the description. Again, just a reminder to send in any news stories that are coming up for February, so that we can cover it in our episode at the start of March. So send those in to antinatalnews@gmail.com. And just again, if you send a story into us, it doesn't necessarily mean it'll get in. And we'll talk about it on the podcast, but we'll do our best and consider everything that comes through. Amanda, do you have any closing remarks?
No, not really. Just if we missed anything from this month, from January, if you've got anything upcoming, definitely let us know about it. You can listen to the Anti-Natal News podcast on the Anti-Natalism International YouTube channel, on Buzzsprout. It will populate to a lot of other podcasting sites soon if it hasn't already, but that's sort of an ongoing process. It's also on SoundCloud. Please feel free to share it with anybody you think might be interested. Lots of things that we hope to do with this podcast moving forward. I hope that eventually we can have some guests, all kinds of stuff. Just excited to do this again.
Yeah, sorry to butt in there.
That
was actually one thing is, we may get sort of like sort of semi-regular or special guests on in the future, because it'll be good to talk about the news with them as well. But if anyone has any suggestions, don't suggest yourself or whatever, but if you've got any, because everyone
good suggestions. Yeah.
But yeah, if anyone's got any suggestions on people they'd like to see come on the podcast, then by all means send those in as well. But
Totally.
I guess that's it for this episode. So thanks everyone again for watching, and I guess AK Hunter will play us out again.
Yep. Before we close out, once again, thank you to AK Hunter and also to Anugrah for our fabulous logo. And thank you so much for listening, everybody. Thank you, Lawrence, and see you next month.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.